we kind of just want to do like, I'm scared I'm going to scare everyone off if I say it like this. So maybe I shouldn't, but we're kind of going to do just like a data 101 sort of thing, which I know sounds boring as fuck, but it's actually not. Stick with me. And the reason I want to do that is because I feel like obviously Jen and I are talking about this all the time, but I feel like sometimes like it can be like, okay, but just like, what does it actually do for me in my business? Like land the plane for me. Like what actually am I getting out of this? And so today we are going to land that plane and tell you what you're actually getting out of this. As well as like a little bit of like, how much time can you expect for things like this to take you, stuff like that. Cause I think that it can be so easy to be like, oh, this is just big and overwhelming. And I don't even want to watch a Data 101 live stream, let alone set it up. But I promise you, if you watch this live stream, you're going to be like, wait, it does what? I definitely have time to set that shit up. So that is what we are going to leave you with today. Trust me. So Jen, do you want to just kind of like open the floor here in terms of like, why did you get so obsessed with data? Like, I feel like almost just like take us back to that, because I feel like that's like a really good starting point here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was an online service provider. I was operating as like a fractional COO, and I was helping business owners with their operations, which included a lot of like managing team that deployed all the marketing activities. And so we would regularly, I would regularly sit down with my clients and talk about, okay, like, where do you want team focused? Are we on Facebook? Are we on Pinterest? Like, what are we doing? And, Lacey knows this about me. I can be a little stubborn and a little bratty. And so there was a couple instances with clients where I felt like, they wanted us to focus our efforts in one particular place. And I was like, I don't really think that that's like getting us the results. And we're dumping all this time and money into it. And like, I don't think that that's right. But like, with a business owner that's generated millions of dollars and me kind of as their service provider, not having done that yet, it was really hard for me to be like, no, I really think you're wrong. And like, I needed to bring something to the table with me. So I started, now I had been a blogger as well. So I was familiar with tools like Google Analytics, but I certainly wasn't an expert, but started poking around, started learning. I am not a numbers person. I had no like math background, definitely not the person that you would think would end up building like an analytics career, but, started looking and really focusing on marketing data in particular, and like, where is our traffic coming from? And then where are our sales coming from? And I was able to take that information and go back to clients and go, wait, like, I have actual numbers that suggest that we're spending like 80% of our time and team dollars on these platforms that are getting us like 10% of the results, right? And if we were to shift our efforts into the ones that are getting us a lot more results that we're not spending a lot of time on, we'd be dumping gasoline on the fire. And so, once I started seeing the ahas that they had, it was like really exciting for me, because I was like, wow, this is adding value to businesses in a way that like, I didn't think I could, right? Like I knew I was a valuable COO. I'm not knocking myself there, but like, it was just seeing that like aha and helping people really realize like, we can spend really strategically and not like burn out. And you can, one of my clients had like 5 kids, and I'm like, you could be spending more time with your kids, right? Like, so there were like bigger impacts to all of this. And so that's really how it started. I just, kind of tested and played. I did not go super crazy into like wild math or stats or any of the like scary things that people think of. It was truly just like, hey, let's just like look at where our traffic's coming from and if it's getting us the results that we think it's getting us.
It's so funny. I just want to like drop something for you guys in a second, but it's so funny because, and I'll mention why I did that. I think that it's sort of like why having a coach is so helpful, is because we think certain things and we need reflection sometimes to remember that every thought we have is not true. And so what I think you're saying is like the CEO could have this thought of like, oh yeah, Instagram's always our best source of traffic. And like, maybe it was 3 years ago, or maybe, right. But it's like, we just get these thoughts in our head that sometimes we find so difficult to let go of. And I feel like that's where data for me is so exceptional, because if not, like, it's so easy to be like, oh, it's just like, for me, one thing that's been interesting is like, my Facebook group has just like always been the thing for me. Right. And technically it has like the most, our biggest audience, all of those things. And so it's so easy for me to default to like, oh, it's the Facebook group is always our thing. But honestly, the podcast has really shifted that quite a bit. And like most of our stuff comes from podcasts, or like most of our interest sales, stuff like that. But like, I only know that because I'm like looking at the data now, where if not, I even find myself do this sometimes. My brain just defaults to like, oh, it's the group. And like, honestly, that's changed. So, I feel like it's that mirror reflection you need, where it's so easy to believe your own stories and believe you actually know. And it's like, I feel like so many people would say, well, like, of course I know where my traffic's coming from. Of course I know where my best sales are coming from. And I've done this with so many clients now. You would be so fucking surprised how many people it is not what they think it is. I feel like you probably say the same too, Jen.
Yeah, it's like my absolute favorite moment, honestly. Like, I mean, I can't say,
Like,
I can't say that yeah, I can't say you never see people who like got it, but it's definitely more the exception. And the thing that you and I have talked about extensively, right, is like learning from your own business versus learning from other people's. And it's funny because that first example that I mentioned of that, she was a blogger that I was working with at the time, the marketing activity that was working for all bloggers, which sounds so funny now because this was like it's probably 6 years ago, and which doesn't seem that long ago. But when I say this,
like forever in internet time, yeah,
like when I say this marketing tactic, you're like, oh, but it was like going in oh my gosh, what it was like going, and it was in organic Facebook groups, but it wasn't like the way that people use. Now I'm blanking. Of course, I like lost my train of thought, but like, it's not the way people use Facebook groups today, where you like go in and you post thought-provoking content and you start to like establish yourself as an expert and people naturally go check out your profile. It was like people were on a schedule and you'd go and like post your link in the group. Like you had like, you had to like apply to be like a whatever. I'm
almost like an engagement pod on Instagram kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you. I like started to lose my train of thought. And then I'm like, how do I explain this? And like, yeah. So anyway, it was, by today's standards, kind of cringe. And like every blogger was doing it though. And so she was having so many people on her team work on this. And I'm like, but just because everybody else is doing it, like, I don't know if that means it's working for us. Right. And so it was like another great example of, we found in her case that it was actually Pinterest that was getting like 80% of her traffic. And we weren't spending any time or money on Pinterest. Like we were just naturally just doing the one pin whenever she made a new blog post. So anyway, it was like it was really eye-opening. And it was a great example of like, yes, like the reflection piece, but also like, just because somebody says this is the new thing, or this is what we're doing, or this is what works for me, doesn't mean that that's going to work for you perfectly.
It's so true. It's so interesting too, because we completely underestimate how much we can know, right? And also how much that can guide your decisions. Like like, for example, actually at A Lit Up Life, I had said to Megan earlier in the year, like, hey, I actually want to do like a rebrand in the website, but for sure, we're going to wait. And then she brought me a dashboard and was like, hi, do you want to see this? Look at how much traffic you're getting. You're getting like, I think thousands more people than you actually think you're getting to your website. Are you really sure you want to wait on that? And I was like, wait, fuck no, I do not want to wait on that. That's so smart. Like, why would we not be that is an unleveraged asset in our business right now. And so, it's just so wild how that helps. Like that was such a clear decision for me. I made it in 2.5 seconds. It was so obvious. It's going to pay off. Like there's no doubt in my mind that doing that work will pay off because I have the data around that, but I wouldn't have made that decision otherwise. And I think that one's such an important one because it's not like everyone has to redo their website. That's not the point. We're not making the best decisions for ourselves sometimes because we're just going off of like, oh no, I don't think I need that. Oh, I think I need that. And I'm not saying you can't go off gut, but that wasn't even a gut. It was just a knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh, we'll do it later in the year. And it does not make sense for us to fucking do it later in the year. So but like, these are things we can know, and these are things we can do. So this is how it scales your business, because you actually put your time and energy to the right things. And also you make really quick decisions. Like that was such a quick decision for me. I feel like most business owners are absolutely paralyzed with like decisions and uncertainty, and they're not like sure what the best choice is or the right investment is. And it's like, if you're constantly saying, but I don't know what I should do next, or like, I don't know if that's a good investment, it just literally means you're not using data. That's the only thing it means. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I couldn't agree any more with that. And I also think like, it's the same thing like when people go out and say, oh, blogging is dead, or Pinterest is dead, or, you know, Instagram is dead, right? It's like that might be true for them, like that they're no longer getting results, right? But I guarantee you, if we were to dig more into your data, Lacey, like all the website traffic I bet you're getting, as a lot of it is from like compounded content over time, right? Like, and so if someone had just, if you weren't you, right, and you were the type of person that just like listened, if someone was like, oh, you know, putting content on your website is dead, like you might not be getting the level of traffic you are, right? And so it's also just like not just immediately buying into, even if it's someone you admire and respect, like knowing that like what they're saying is true for them and it's working for them, but that doesn't, like, you need to look at your own data to validate if that is true for you.
Yes. I feel like that I feel like this is a conversation coming up on many levels, but I will derail us for a second and then I will bring us back to also, guys, if you have questions or things you want us to talk about, let us know that too. I know Michelle is listening while she party plans and just cleaning and all of the things, but if there is something you're like, I really wanted y'all to talk about this today, tell us. But the thing I want to derail us on is like, I feel like well, I actually recently wrote a post that was like, this is the biggest joke in the online industry. So this is the second biggest joke, but is that everyone pretends because something is true for them, it's true for everyone. Like this idea that like, if you just use someone's templates for like, your launch or something, that then they will work, is like, it's like actually hysterical. The fact that like, that is getting sold more than data in our industry is so fucking insane to me. And I feel like it's literally like a cover up. I know that sounds extreme and dramatic, but I literally feel like it's a cover up. Like I'm like the idea that you're just going to take someone's template, even if you feel like, oh, we both serve new business owners or whatever, it's that's almost irrelevant, right? Like the idea that would sell more than I'm going to track like data, traffic, sales, like marketing in my own business is literally crazy to me. I try to think about this all the time and think like, well, why does that make more sense? And it like actually fucking doesn't, is the answer.
Yeah. And you also don't know, like, even if you serve the same audience, right? Maybe you serve female new business owners in the fitness space. You still don't know, and I'm going to start like throwing out my corporate terms here, but you don't know the headwinds and the tailwinds that person has. Like if someone were to come up and try to come up against you today, Lacey, right? Like you have been doing this for years. You are like the most probably consistent business owner I've ever met in terms of like, this is what we do. This is the process we follow. We put out content this number of times a week. Like you are so methodical and consistent. And so if someone new were coming in, even if like they could quickly replicate your audience size, it's like you have all of this like momentum that's pushing you forward that someone else new coming in just couldn't compete against, right? So even if they copied all of your strategies and all of your tactics and took all of your, you know, and you made templates of everything and they bought all your templates, like they still could not like wake up tomorrow and have a business the same as yours because you have all of these things working for you that they don't. And the same is true for like things working against you, right? Like, you know, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but there are things that people don't consider what is working for and against the businesses that they're comparing themselves to.
And it's why selling those things is so effed, because it's like, okay, well, like maybe your business started because someone recommended you 100 times, but now you're selling in a way that suggests that like that had nothing to do with your success. And it's like, that's so crazy.
100%. I see this in like the big masterminds a lot. It's like, and I'll admit, like I did a great job in the very beginning acquiring clients, but like I started, you know, I was in masterminds, I started networking with bigger name people. And when I got their vouch, right, it made everything go faster. And so someone, again, could have the same skills as me, the same resources, could have started their business at the same time, be focusing on the same audience, but I paid to be in rooms that they didn't pay to be in. And I got recommendations, which then it's kind of like that snowball effect, right? And so again, there's so many pieces to it. And I get really upset. I read a ton. I'm like, Lacey knows I'm like the ultimate consumer. And so I get so sad when I'm like reading newsletters or Twitter posts or whatever it is that I'm looking at, and I see people being like, blogging is dead, or this is the only thing that works, or you must do this. And I'm like, ooh, but like, one, I know that that's not how you got to where you are today. And two, like, no, like that's not that you could, I'm always a bigger fan of being like, hey, this is what worked for me, like versus you should do this. Like, I think those are two very different statements. And I think, frankly, and this is going to sound extreme, but I think it's an abuse of power when people,
It is.
when people go those extremes. And I have so many thoughts on it. So.
Jess said, well, it's so true though. Jess said those templates always point you to, it was like strategy in a box is basically what she was saying. Right. And I think that's what you're saying. It's like, and then Deidre said too many people take the steal my strategy templates life way too literally. And I think that's so true, right? It's like, it's one thing to be like open and honest about like how you grew and be willing to like share and have transparency around that. And it's totally another to be like, my way is the way. This is the thing. If you just have these templates, then everything gets easy. Like, quite honestly, templates are easier than what you would have to go through to set up your data. If you could just copy and paste them, but they just don't actually work because that premise is so fucking flawed. But like you said, because that abuse of power kind of exists in this space of like, well, I am on a pedestal because I have made more money. And so I know more than you, like those business owners you were working with, where you were like, I needed some other leverage point because they had more money or made more money than I did. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, Steph.
And while you're checking the comments, and this was, before Lacey and I worked together, I was in a high ticket mastermind program. And I actually and I'm never the person that like complains, exit programs, ask for refunds. Like, normally
you will pay for anything.
I will pay for anything. And also like, if I'm not happy with it, that I put that on me, not on the person I bought it from. And this was the first time ever that I had been like, no, I want out. I want to break this contract. I'll talk to a lawyer if I have to, because they had such an approach. And it was like this, templatized in a box. This is how you must do it. This is the only thing that works. And I was looking around, and there were a lot of people like really spending a ton of money and a ton of time and effort trying to force themselves into this box. And that wasn't what was working for them. And so, and I knew right off that, like, as soon as I got in it and I started to see, I was like, this is not, one, like, wouldn't really work for my business model. And two, like, not the way that I want to operate, like that it's in alignment with my values. But again, so, there were hundreds of people in this thing, like maybe not hundreds, but it was at least like 120 or so. Like, there was a good number of people that were in this, and they were like forcing themselves to try to make it work, overspending in the cost of the mastermind, plus all the expensive tools that the person said we had to use, and all the, contractors to set up the tools, and then team to like manage everything. And like, they were just getting into debt.
Yes. Jess said the thing that data does feels like the Austin Kleon quote, don't steal my writing, steal my thinking behind it. And data helps you understand the thinking behind successful businesses. 1000%.
Yes.
We should put that on our sales page. Thanks, Jess.
I love that. Yes.
Oh yeah. Hey, Adrian. Nermeen said same. Yeah. And Jeter said, I think buying templates, people are often without consciously realizing it, buying hope, not the actual template. We want things to be easy. We want that one magic template or strategy. Nailed it.
100%. Like,
right. And it's like, I get it, because it's like, that is so exciting and captivating to be like, oh, these emails will make me a millionaire. Amazing. But like, harder to be like, okay, I will have to like look at what my audience is telling me and interpret that and all that. That is a bigger lift, but it is the most empowering lift. I don't know if I ever told you this, Jen. Oh, and then Julie had a really good question, which I copied and we'll go back to. Okay. But one of my clients sent me a Loom video because she wanted to show me something on her dashboards. And she was like, I'm going to cry as I record this. And I was like, oh God. And I was thinking like her data was showing her something like really upsetting. And she was like, I'm going to cry while I'm recording this because I have never felt so empowered in my business. I can't even remember exactly how she said it, but she was basically like, oh, she was like, I've never felt so empowered, and I've never felt so like, it's not me.
I love that. I wish
so
your coaching
cute.
calls were like recorded.
It was so cute. She like cried through the loom where she's like, and here's where you can see my traffic. I'm like, oh my God, this is to die for. But it's like, that's how exciting it is when you've spent years in the online space, hearing why you suck, hearing why you're not getting it right, hearing why this template should work for you. And if it doesn't, something's wrong with you. Like, it's freeing, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I could not agree more.
Julie said, I know you both say you can't do this too early, but I'm very early in my coaching business and have been tracking all of this by hand, like discovery calls, how they found me, and then who converts. I'm mainly doing one-on-one outreach to my network, commenting in Facebook groups, and getting in front of other people's audience. So seems like UTM tagging might be overkill at this point. Would love your thoughts on this.
Ooh, I have so many thoughts. So
Go ahead, Jen.
I would say, don't make yourself wrong for doing it manual. Like, that is data.
Yeah.
Totally. And I think that's actually a huge misconception. And Lacey and I have talked about this on previous calls, but like in Millionaire Makers, like people will talk about things and be like, oh, I did this like survey, or I did this Google thing, or I had these conversations, and we're like, that is data, right? So I would say like you are so far ahead, probably people with businesses much farther along than you, just in the fact that you're even like tracking these things. And so again, whether it's like on a piece of paper or in some fancy dashboard, like you're doing it right. Is the first thing I would say. So like, awesome job for doing that. And then 2, I would say it's not overkill. I would say it, outreach to your network, like you could UTM links. I would say it's totally up to you. Like I would probably recommend it to get in the habit of it, because as you start to strategy stack, right? Like you're starting with one-on-one outreach, and then you stack on the Facebook groups, and next you might stack on Instagram. It's like you're building that foundation to like have that be consistent versus implementing it down the road. Now I wouldn't lose your mind over it. Like I wouldn't be like, oh no, I sent an email and I didn't perfectly UTM that. But especially like for commenting in Facebook groups, for example, make sure that the link in your bio on your Facebook page is a UTM link, right? And that way, when people do click back from the group into your profile and they click, that came from Facebook. Again, there's more advanced things you can start to do later on, but I think the biggest mistake people make with data, which is why they jump out quickly, is that they try to go from 0 to 100 immediately. And it's like, you've already doing an awesome job with your manual tracking. Add in one thing, right? UTM, like your main links in all your social platforms. Start with that. Start to get the data. You'll have those moments like Lacey just talked about where you start to get really excited about some results, and then you can start to build it out further. And even with us, like we have like a pretty good content machine, I would say, going. And some of the places our UTM strategy is pretty simple. Like we don't overcomplicate it, because the more complicated you make something, the harder it also is to like look at, keep up with, follow. And so, Lace, I don't know, would you add anything to that?
No, I was actually going to say exactly what you did, which is like, I've seen people that are quite far along have to implement a UTM strategy, and that's a bear.
Yeah.
To be like, we have shit everywhere and we've never tracked a single thing. That's a lot harder. Let me be honest. That's a lot harder than like, I started from square one and I built the machine along the way. It's not impossible by any means, but I will say like having that like start with you versus get added in later is like a much easier road. So I don't think you have to have it now, but I also think that sometimes that's the thing where we're like, oh, really wish I would have started with that a bit ago,
Yes. Yeah. 100%, especially too, like you might, I don't know what you're doing in terms of like, your email sequences, right? So maybe after you have a call with someone, there's like an automated sequence that they get. Like those are the low hanging fruit that like Lacey said are really obnoxious to go back down the road and have to add in, especially like if you're a massive business and you have like 70 sequences, right, of different, user journeys, and now you're having to go update them all and come up with the strategy for each and train team on how to do it. It just, I always think it's never too early to start, but I had to call out the like, don't make yourself wrong for doing it manually for now too. Absolutely. Because like all data is good data. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're getting that information, if you have that feedback loop about your business, it doesn't matter. Like, don't listen to anybody. There's a lot of people right now, and this is not a knock at like Hyros, but there's this tracking tool called Hyros.
But it is. I'm teasing.
Well, you also do know how
I'll say it. I will knock it. No, I'm kidding.
I do have feelings about all these things, but but there are tools out there like Hyros, and people make you feel wrong. Like if you're running Facebook ads and you're not using that, and it's like, do you have a feedback loop? Yes or no? Like, I don't care what that feedback loop is, but so don't get caught up in those pieces about like doing it right. Start doing it and then you can iterate. It's like working out. I know Lacey always does like the dating analogies. I always do like the like working out or like weight loss analogies, but it's like, if you're, now granted, this analogy, you could hurt yourself, but like if you're doing a squat every day and you're not doing it in perfect form, but you're not doing it so bad that you're going to hurt yourself, like that is better than not doing the squat at all. Yes, right? Totally. Like, so yesterday, for example, like, we have the smoke here. I went out in my garage to work out. I only did like 3 sets of 3 exercises when normally I try to do six exercises, 3 sets each, but it was like better than not doing any exercise at all. Right. Yeah, like the data is the same way.
I so agree with that. Jess said, not that the goal is always viral content, but usually if you don't track, you'll have an amazing result and be like, crap, I don't know what happened or how.
Yes.
And I think that's so true too. It's like one of those things where it's like, you kind of don't realize how much you need it until you have a thing like that, where you're like, wait, like, why did my sales page get 500% views today? And then you have no way to figure that out. And it like can be quite frustrating to be in that position. So I think that's a good one too.
Yeah. And the opposite's true too. Like I worked with a pretty big entrepreneur and her team had sent out a broken link to her email list. And so they got all this traffic to this random link on it and their sales page were getting nothing. And she was like, what the heck is going on? Like, why, we unlocked the flood, like we should be getting sales right now and nothing is coming in. Why? And so we went to her data and they had sent out a broken link. Like, yep. You know what I mean? Like, so sometimes it's like, it can also help you figure out just little errors and stuff.
What's not working. Yeah. I think one thing I really want to make sure we talk about too is like, because I mean, obviously this whole conversation is that, but I want to just say it so specifically is like why it's the thing to help you scale, because ultimately scaling, I feel like I'm so over this word, by the way, but we'll talk about it through that lens. Scaling is just about like leveraging your time, leveraging your money, leveraging your energy. Like it's like a leverage point, right? It's not like going from 10K to 20K. Like maybe you did that in a leveraged way. Maybe you didn't. Like it's not, scale doesn't just equal make more money. Let's just be clear, right? But it's about leveraging what's working. And the literal only way to know how to leverage what's working is to actually fucking know what's working. And the only way to know what's working, riddle me this, right, is to like look at your own data. And I just think that's so important to say, because if not, I'm like, well, how else are you doing that? Are you guessing? Are you listening to someone else? 9 times out of 10, you're listening to someone else. You're like, well, so-and-so said that's how they scaled. That is so irrelevant. That would be like, Jen told me the way she like, whatever, like got rid of her allergies is she took this one pill and like, maybe that works for me. Maybe that doesn't. It's like, it's data I could use, but it's not that relevant. You know what I mean? It's just so interesting that that's how our space has gotten set up. Alyssa said, any encouragement when you do have a ton of links, pages, sequences, to go back to and adding all that tracking info.
Yeah, I would say do one at a time. So I think people try to like tackle all of it and it's super overwhelming. I'm a pretty scheduled person sometimes. So I would say, well, I also have this like, I do have this like, me and my dichotomies. I also have this like rebellious part of me that like likes to like keep rules and structure. So yeah. I would say like trying to like decide like, okay, I'm going to do 1 sequence a week. Like I feel like people are like, oh my gosh, now I've got to pay 15 people and I've got to like, no, pick a sequence, like start with like, and you don't even have to do it strategically. I'm not even going to tell you, like, if you have that many, like, yes, maybe if you have like your main sequence, your main welcome sequence, start with those. But like, even if you were to just go, I'm going to go in alphabetical order and I'm going to pick 1 a week or 2 a week, or maybe, I would say set a time, but I also don't want you to like be halfway through one and then arbitrarily stop. But like, don't overcomplicate it. Just like do a little bit at a time and keep a spreadsheet or a checklist or a piece of paper. Again, I'm a super data person. I have paper all over my desk, right? Like, just go one at a time and don't overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, we took a while at A Lit Up Life to set them up. Like quite a while, because like our team just had like, other things. And this is like an additional project on top of it, but we just did a little bit at a time. And now I have like everything I need and more, and it's amazing, but it wasn't like 0 to 60. Like that didn't happen in a few weeks. Like that happened over months and months. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, sometimes that's like, ugh. But honestly, like those months and months would have passed regardless. Right.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, then I still wouldn't have had it because I would have been waiting until we could like do it all at once. So it just makes sense.
Yeah. And then even in the interim, like I am a fan of using UTMs over what I'm about to say, but as like an interim approach, a lot of the email service providers connect directly to Google Analytics or have the option in the settings where you can like put in your, you could say like set up for Google Analytics or whatever. And that will at least push through like the subject lines of emails or like the campaign number, so that if you're not using UTMs, you still have that to fall back on. So like that's another option. Again, I wouldn't say it replaces UTMs. Like I think UTMs are better, more useful, and then it allows you to kind of slice and dice different ways when you get to that stage of analysis. But that is an option as well. But just don't, like, as a general practice, I mean, and I can share this like late, I obviously built us a dashboard for Datable, and I made changes to it. Like, I mean, this past week, it's been like every day because I've had the time to do it, but like every week, at least I'm doing something in there, right? Like there was some stuff in there yesterday that I was like, oh, that's actually not useful. So like when you probably saw, I don't know if you noticed last night, some things were gone, right? Because I'm like, if we're not looking at it, if this isn't driving decisions, like this is a distraction. So I'm going to take that out. People seem to think like more data is better, and that's not always the case. Like you want to have the data on the things that you're trying to make decisions about when it comes to like your everyday kind of like what you're looking at. So, I mean, it's always an iterative process. It's not like you're never done. Like you're never done, which also means like, that's awesome. That's like super permission giving and like freeing, because it doesn't mean you have to like spend 60 hours to do it all today, because you're still not going to be done. Like,
it's like business. It's literally like your partner in business. It's going to grow with you. It's going to change with you. Like that's how it's supposed to be. Adrian said, I'm really looking at getting this. My profits have changed significantly due to childcare, and knowing this feels like less mental energy and leveraging the facts. Exactly. Like leveraging the facts feels so important. I cannot tell you how many of my clients, after we've like given this to them, implemented this to them, have been like reflecting to me how data is like the ultimate mindset hack. Because it's just clear. It's neutral. That's what we talk about all the time with mindset. How do you get to neutral? How do you get to neutral? How do you create neutrality around your business, your decisions? And it's like, this is what brings neutrality to it. So if you're like, wait, I see my sales dipping and I see that I could like really go to a place when you have facts to just be like, oh, wait, all that happened is I was doing this thing and it was sending traffic and now it's not, or whatever. Like it frees you in so many ways to just be a business owner and do the thing. And so, yeah, if you have found that you've like lost a lot of the time that you had to put into it or whatever, and you need to leverage, like to me, this is the ultimate way to leverage things. It's just so crazy, like how you can just be like, wait, this is what's working. Let me just do more of it. This one's kind of working. Let me figure that out. This one's not working at all. Why am I paying money for this? Like we always talk about, oh my God, what's the first one? What's the first D? I know the second two Ds. Dial it up.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm blanking on it too. It's like drop.
It's ditch.
Ditch.
Oh my God,
I can't believe I'm blanking on this too.
I literally write about this all the time. Dial it in. Ditch.
Dial it in. And then there has
I don't know what the first one is. I don't know what the D is for it. I'll find it. But like basically do more of what's working.
Yes.
But
I can't believe we're forgetting this, because I was like so proud when we came up with this too.
I also love that both of our brains blinked on the same one. That tells us something. But yeah, I think that when you have something like, okay, like my time is changing or my ability to like input into the business is changing, this is just what tells you just that it should be dance.
It's do more, dial it in, or ditch it.
Okay, do more makes sense. Yes. Okay. And if you have not a ton of time, you might only do more. Like I have some clients who are in that position where there are things we could dial in, but they have really limited time right now in their life and business. And so all we're doing is doing more. Like we're just leveraging what's working. And
Just
that's
said
really,
dance.
I know.
Sorry.
She wants us to add dance into the end.
Then dance, deal. 40s.
Obviously.
Now it's the 40s.
And then at the end, you're going to dance. But you are going to fucking dance because you're going to be like, wait, this is so obvious and easy. But yeah, for some of my clients, like we would look at all of this. For some, it would be like, there's nothing, there are things to dial in, but we don't even like want to right now. And so that's the other thing to say is like, just because you have this information doesn't mean you have to act on all of it immediately. It just means you kind of like know the vibe and the direction. Like Jen and I, like she said, she's done like an incredible job building out Datable dashboards. And like, there's a lot of things I know. And also Jen and I are both fucking busy. And so like, there's just a lot of things we know we will eventually do and that our data suggests that we do and we just aren't doing right now. And that's okay too. And what's nice about that is like, we just never feel bad about it because it's like, we have like 10 things in our back pocket that we know we can do to make the business better at any given point. But like, I don't feel bad that I'm not doing it today. I feel really resourced that I know 10 other things that I could eventually do, you know?
Well, yeah. And it helped. The other thing that I think like it helps us do, and you're better about this than me because I get a little too fixated on the data, but like, it's also like when we see things and that aren't going or working quite the way that we were like expecting or hoping, it's like deciding when we'll decide to take action on it, right? So it's like, okay, let's like keep watching this for a little bit because it doesn't always mean act, right? Like there could be 9 great reasons, which is usually what Lacey reminds me of, like why this is current state. And let's decide on when we're going to decide about it, right? Like, let's give it 3 more months and we'll look at the data at that point and then make a decision. Because sometimes it is just time too. Like if you go and post once on Twitter and you get no link clicks, that doesn't mean Twitter's bad, right? Like I heard somebody say this the other day, like if you go on a date with a guy and it's like a bad date, that doesn't mean that like you're done with guys and guys are bad, right? And you need to switch to girls, like, which like power to you, do whatever you want. But like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like that extreme reaction of like, I did it once, it didn't work, so it's never going to work. So I think that's really freeing too, because it's like, you cannot make it like, otherwise like someone like me might like think about it, overthink about it, continue to think about it. But instead it's like the power that this gives us is like, okay, cool. We're going to give it 3 months and then we'll reassess. Now I don't have to think about it for 3 months. Like that just freed up my brain power.
Yes, exactly. And I still feel like it's being looked at. Like the thing I love about it is like, I know our business is almost always being looked after because we have dashboards. So it's like, I don't even have to worry about that right now, but I know anytime I'm like ready to dive into that, I have like an access point to go do that. I'm not like, oh, I haven't been looking at that and I like don't even know what's going on there. And now we're fucked. And now I need 3 more months of actually looking at it to get information.
Yes. And I have a great example of that. So we, as you all know, right, we rebranded the Nimble Code to Datable in December. And so when we did all the behind the scenes tech stuff, there were redirects set up. If any of you have ever changed a domain name, you've got to like set up all the links to redirect to the new domain. And anyway, I had never really been looking at like the 404 page error information, but I ended up setting up, I had seen something and I'm like, oh, this is weird. It looks like somebody's going to this link that I know is a broken link. So I made a 404 page error report for our dashboard. And like Lacey said, it's like, it was just something that was in there that like we could see. And so all of a sudden I saw this like spike in 404 traffic. And I was like, wait a minute. So like, that's not normally part of my checklist for like every Friday I check 404 traffic. Yeah. Right. It's just, I do my normal nightly flip through of our data. I saw it. I was able to be like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go look, figured out the problem. I also realized that 50% of the people that clicked on those 404 links just bailed. Like they didn't stay to try to find what they were originally coming to find.
They were like, forget it.
Yeah, they hit the 404 page. They're like, I'm out. And so it was really empowering because it was a quick fix, right? Like I was able to see what's coming from, kind of stop the bleed, so to speak. And now it's just like a maintenance monitor, right? Like we still have a couple sneaking through. And so I get to play like Detective Jen and try to figure out what those are, or not, because it's like a couple and, you know, we can decide if that's worth it or not. But I just think it's very empowering because it's like, you know, that like, if you see something that's actually a problem, you can fix it. You can see it and fix it quickly before it becomes a bigger problem. But also just because you see it doesn't mean you need to act on it like every single thing.
Exactly. It's like the information of like the health of your business is there.
Yeah.
And you use it when you want and you do it that way you want. The other thing that I really think makes a lot of sense to do with it, and then I do want to talk about time, like commitment to this.
Yeah.
But like I constantly talk about harass my clients about and think about like one of the reasons I'm a great coach is because I ask these questions and because clients bring me this data. And I think that like, that's just so missing in our space. I think like, I feel like so few people that I, know or see in our industry are saying to their clients, like, well, what does your data say? What is this telling you? Like what, right? They try to paint themselves as the end all be all know all. And it's like, I can't know what's happening in your funnel. Tell me every bit of data there and I will comb through all of it with you.
Yeah.
Right. And that helps you be a great coach. That helps you get great coaching. But if you're just going to your coach being like, I don't know, shit's broken my business, nothing's working. Like, it's so hard for them to actually like really effectively help you from that point, because like they're just going off of what you're bringing to them. And so if you can bring to them, here's what's going on, it's amazing how much support you can get. And so I think that this is one of the reasons it's scalable too, is because it makes every other investment pay off. Like it makes coaching pay off more for you. It makes whatever courses you're going to buy pay off more for you, because you actually know they're the thing you need to solve the actual problem you have. But if you're going into all these other investments without this, like coaching is still amazing and going to support you, but it's probably like going to work about 50% as well, because it's a guess at that point. It's not like actually factually based. And I think that's really important to say.
I agree.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about that, Jen?
I would just say like, even as you hire, like it makes all of your other investments pay off even more, is like, even as you hire either people or you buy programs on some of these other strategies, like I always pick on Instagram because everybody knows Instagram, but it's like, if you know how to measure your results from Instagram, then you know if that investment is actually paying off. And that investment, not only in the program or the person that you hired, but also the investment of your time and your resources, like, is that actually paying off? If you were to just be like, oh, I'm going to implement this strategy, but you had no feedback loop for it, like you have no way of knowing. And you're able to like continue to refine and tweak and get better and better results.
Okay, so I want to share something special, but I also, before I do that, want to have you just talk a little bit, Jen, because I feel like everyone kind of gets into like, oh my God, how much fucking time does this take? So I would love for you to just talk about that a little bit, because I feel like that's the biggest barrier and overwhelm piece. And then Jen agreed to something crazy yesterday, and so I'm going to share that at the end too, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I would say for time, because I get this question all the time, and Lacey knows like my initial reaction. So it's like, oh, I hate this question, only because it depends, right? Like how long it's going to take you to set things up and get this going as a leverageable asset in your business really depends on you and your business. And so I would say what it comes down to is like, I do not have this philosophy that people need to like spend 4 weeks getting this all set up perfectly, and then you have this one dashboard that works perfectly and you never touch again. No, I think it's about like tackling things piece by piece. And it's also about, if you're looking at all the different things you can measure, what are the things you want to focus on first, and not making yourself wrong or overthinking that, right? So like if you send a lot of emails, maybe you pick emails. If, Instagram is like your social media platform of choice, start with Instagram, right? Like, but figuring out like, what are the big questions I have about my business and what information would help me answer those questions? And let's start there. So in Measure and Maximize, like, I think I've recorded myself setting up people's dashboards, and like I can set up, I did it once on one of these calls in like 2 minutes, right? Like the dash, like you can do things quickly, but it really comes down to like what it is that you're trying to solve for, and not making yourself wrong for doing it one piece at a time. Like, I don't think it needs to be like that you sit down, that you like check off data and you're done. Like, I think this should be part of your process, just like anything else in your business.
What Jen and I always say that I think is relevant is like, it will take you longer to go through Measure and Maximize than it will actually take you to set up the dashboards, right? But it's important to have that foundational knowledge and to like really understand what the point is and what you're trying to ask and what you're trying to get out of it. The actual tech setup is like, that's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Like the how I think about it and why I'm doing it so that I can understand it and make this like a living, breathing part of my business. Like, yeah, that's going to take some energy to pour into, just like any course you're going to take or do, but that's like leverageable stuff that's going to stay with you. It's not like you're just learning this one task one time. You're learning literally how to think about orient to and use data in your business. And then you're going to go set it up, and it's going to take way less time than that.
100%. And I have two things I want to say about that. One is like, it's intentionally why we don't just give you a whole bunch of templates, because it's your business. Like, your business is different than our business. It's different than Lacey's other, a Lit Up Life business, then different than someone else's business. Like, so, I'm a consumer of templates and different tools and stuff. And there's like a dashboard connector tool that I like, that I had purchased a template for once, because I was curious how they did it. And I don't use that template in our data, because the things that they reported on aren't useful for us. They're not things that we would look at. It might be useful for the person that created this template, but that it's not useful information or information that I want to look at for us. And something I always say is like, just because you're not looking at it doesn't mean the information doesn't exist, right? So like, it releases some of that pressure to be like, I have to look at everything. And it's like, no, what are the big questions I have, or what are the big things I'm focusing on? And what are those feedback loops that I can check in with to make sure that it's going as expected, or that there's no major problems. I can't remember what my other piece of that was. Oh, the thinking. So I think that's really important too, because again, your business is personal. There's going to be things that you have questions about that other people might not, right? Like, and so if you are just consuming like free resources, or you're just like buying templates about data, or like buying pre-made spreadsheets, and there's nothing wrong. There's stages and phases for all of those things. But if you're not learning the thinking behind it, like, you're not going to, when those questions come up, you're not going to know what to do, because you're not going to have a way to be like, oh, this is how I could find that information. Or you might not have a community of people that you can go to and say, hey, like, where do I figure this out? Right. Because like, you need other people around you that are thinking this way as well.
Yes. So true. Which, on that note, Jen is a psychopath.
I am.
No, I'm kind of kidding, but I'm actually not. So, I'm actually not. So, well, first let me say two things. One, I don't even think I said this, but Measure and Maximize is on sale right now. So it's always open, but quite honestly, like, we're just like wanting to help people get off the fence. I feel like data is the thing where I always hear people, everyone I've ever talked to about this is like, I want Measure and Maximize so bad. I'm going to do it when. And so this is just like us giving you a reason. Like, you guys know you're smart, you're business owners, you're buying this because you also want to figure out how to like make shit work in your business. And so this is just our way of kind of being like, we want to give you a good reason to do it now and not later. And so it's $200 off right now. And this is where Jen becomes a psychopath, is she is so obsessed. Well, I am too, but I'm slightly less psycho, but she is obsessed with like the personalization aspect, which is what she was just talking about. And so she said that if anyone that watches this live within, what did you say, 48 hours?
48 hours. Because I like action takers.
We like action takers. If anyone watches this live within 48 hours, she is going to send you a questionnaire, and she's going to do a whole audit of your current setup. Basically, we're calling it like a quick start custom roadmap. So Jen will audit your setup and basically give you a loom telling you what the personalized kind of setup you need for your data is. So it just gives you that like faster starting point. Jen, you can talk about this a little bit more, but basically anyone that does that is just getting that for free. We're not sending it out via email. It's literally just for people who watch this live, because we don't want Jen to implode. And because I just love this community, and I like really want, like, I feel so passionately about like you guys really like getting on board with us of this over time. Like, I always say to Jen, if it takes me like 5 years to get everyone on board with data, and like if the veil lifted, I will be here for 5 years talking about it. But this is just like an example of that. So maybe Jen, just to get a little more specific than I described it here.
Yeah, I think like one of the overwhelming pieces to people, not necessarily of Measure and Maximize itself, but just in starting with data in general, is like feeling like, especially if you're not a numbers person or you're not tech savvy, and you're like, oh, what specifically do I need to do? Or am I going to do this correctly? Or how do I know I'm doing the right things? And so
especially based on like the tech stack you have, meaning like what email provider do you have? What landing pages do you have? What's your website hosted on? All that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And then we can literally point you to where in the program or otherwise you can find that information, right? So, obviously our program, we can't show there's a new cart program, a new cart tool that comes out every single day, right? Like, I can't keep up with that in the program, and that's not what we do, right? So I can also help and go through and be like, hey, oh, you're using Samcart. Here are some issues people have had with Samcart. Here's what we want to make sure we have put in place for you, right? Like, we can go through and actually talk through okay, here's what you're going to want to do. Oh, maybe skip right to this part in the program and do this first. So it's like giving you this custom roadmap based on your specific setup that can give you a little bit more confidence, being like, oh, Jen looked at this, like, I know I'm doing the right things here, right? Like, I know I'm starting in the right places and I'm not missing something super important, or I'm going to set something up wrong. Again, I have confidence in all of us online business owners. Like, if you've made $1 online, I promise you, you can build a dashboard and look at your data, right? Like, it's exponentially harder to make even like a quarter online than it is to like do these things. But I want to help like with some of that, like feeling of confidence and certainty for you as well. So yeah, I'm excited about this. Like, I'm kind of scared because I don't know like what the volume is going to be, but I don't have a lot going on this weekend. So, you know, I can work on it.
Come on down.
Yeah.
So basically, Jess, if you watch this live and you purchase, just email us at support@getdatable and be like, hey, I want, you know, Jen's thing, and we'll get you set up. We're just doing it like super informally like that, because like I said, we're not sharing it via email. It's like literally just if someone got to this point in the live stream, we basically want to say thank you. I also dropped a link that's like a sample of dashboards, just because I feel like that's really helpful. I think sometimes when we talk data and dashboards, it's like easy for people to be like, but like, what does that exactly look like? And so this is what it looks like here, just like sample ones that we built, our students have built. And I think it just, yours don't have to look like this. It just gives you an idea of like some of the value you could get out of it. So click on that if you're like, I just like need to know a little bit more here. And then otherwise, if you have questions, we're so open. Like it's so important to us. It's so funny. We've been in this like constant conversation of like, how are we transparent in our funnel? We talk about this like ad nauseum kind of, because it's so important to us that we're not like, you have to have this thing. It's the magic bullet. Spend your money on this, even if you like, don't feel like you can afford it, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not it. And we also want to be like, data is urgent in your business. Like, it really is. Learning from your own business is so fucking important. And it's how you don't fall into all these other traps that can happen. So it's like a both and. So like, if you have questions, if you're like, I truly just want to understand if this is right for me, like reach out to us. Like, I promise you, we are not here to sell you just to sell you. Like, that's not the vibe. It's not what we believe of here, but also like, we do want this to feel comfortable for you. And we do want you to be like, yeah, like data really is going to change some shit for me. So
yeah. And one thing I would add too, is sometimes people get tripped up because if you go to the sales page, we have 2 versions of the program. The core content's the same. The VIP just gives you some extra pieces. And I would say like, we get a lot of emails from people like asking about you can always upgrade later. Like, there is an upgrade option. So like, don't overthink it. If you're not, that one typically, the VIP is usually for service provider people, like
doing it for other people,
where it's like, I want to build dashboards for other people. If you're just starting learning about your own business, like, save the money, go with the base version. And then if you become like totally geeked out and you want all the extras, you can upgrade later. So there's like no FOMO here. We're not trying to push people into like something more expensive. I just wanted to speak to that because I think it's like a point of friction for people where they're like, wait, but I don't want to miss out. Like, just, we're humans behind this. We're not like robots. Like, email us if there's something that you're not sure about, or there's something that you want that you don't have, and we can see what we can do. Right. So know that that's like an option for later.
I'm dead. This is like my favorite question ever. Alyssa said, Lacey, you said I shouldn't buy any more courses for the business calendar year during our intensive last week. Just Datable count. I'm dead. I love that so much.
Alyssa, are we best friends? Like, are we the same person?
Jen used to do this shit to me all the time. And she would try to like, be like, I know you said this, but also, here's what I would say to that. Like, to me, I don't really file this under like another course I'm buying. I file this under like trying to like leverage what's happening in my own business, and like knowing that you're like really working off of like a pretty robust funnel. I think it probably is quite helpful. Do you have to buy Measure and Maximize to start tracking that? No. I mean, you came to delegate your data, and I think Jen did a really good job of like mentioning that there are free resources and stuff like that. So you absolutely do not have to buy Measure and Maximize to do that. But if you are like, I'm gonna start tracking data, I really, really would, based on kind of like your setup right now. So like a yes and sort of situation there. But it's always funny for me, because I think when I say to people like, don't buy courses, what I'm typically saying is because you know all you need to know, or you have all you need to have in your business to be successful. And to me, this, like, I don't even file Measure and Maximize under course, because I'm like, this is just you finding out that information that you already have. So I struggle with that question sometimes. My clients will do this to me too, because I'll be like, don't do anything else. And they're like, yeah, but like I was going through measure and maximize. Am I still allowed to do that? And I'm like, oh, that's such a hard question. But like, yes, it does make sense. You know what I mean? Because it feels different than like I'm learning something new. It feels to me like I'm learning from my business.
Yes, I think that's really the key difference. I don't think like it's a question that Lacey can directly answer for you, right? Because I'm the queen of justifying like why I'm going to do the opposite of what Lacey tells me to do. Like when I was a client of hers, she knows this. Like I'm like, oh, but here's my like 16-point case study on why I'm going to do this anyway. And so I agree with everything that she said. I think the like notion of stop buying courses is often like trusting yourself. And then like with me, I know like I had a very bad course buying problem that I've really dialed back in the past like 6 to 8 months, but I often wasn't like doing all the things. It's like I just read a quote, oh my gosh, this morning, I wish I could remember it exactly, but it was like, instead of like reading 10 new business books this week, why don't you like read one and actually implement the things that you've learned? I think that's the problem. And at least I can speak for myself, at least like that was my problem with this like habitual course buying, was that I was like buying with this like fear that like there was a piece of information that I didn't have that I needed to go find, when the reality was like everything I needed to know about growing my business was in my business, and I just needed to like go inward to figure that out. Like, so I co-sign what you said there.
Yes, so true. Everything I need to learn about growing my business was in my business. I feel like that is like
the headline.
That's the headline. Yep. Like that's it. Okay. Well, I know you probably have to go, Jen, too. And I know you guys have been here with us for a while. So thank you so much. If you buy that, email us at support@Datable. If you have questions, reach out to either of us. You can reach out to us at support@Datable. You can DM us on Instagram, whatever works for you. We're here. And the 200 off expires when, Jen?
I think it's Megan's the boss there, but I think it's next Friday, the 16th.
I think it's the 16th,
if I remember from the page. And then the other thing I would say, just in case you're listening to the replay and you're not in the comments, I did say like, even if you're watching the replay, if it's, as long as it's within 48 hours of, June 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern, like we count it. So even if you're watching this replay tomorrow, like, I put that in the comments, but just in case I don't read comments when I watch replays. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
Perfect. Thank you. Amazing. All right. Thank you for being here, Jen. So appreciate you. If you guys have questions, let us know, and hopefully we'll see you inside Measure Maximize.
Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.